All right, so let's get started on our week 1 classwork. And for this, we're going to first do some setup work that you're going to need. Now, before I jump in and get started, I just want to give an FYI for those students who have not watched the week 0 video. It's been recorded before the start of the semester to give you the heads up as far as the required course materials and how to get them and when you're going to need them. So if you haven't checked that out, and you are in here to actually start on what is your first due item, and the way you know something is due, it actually has a date on it. So if you're here and you haven't watched that, go watch that and then come back here and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and click into here, and I mentioned this in the week 0, but the one thing you are going to need is a Gmail account. And the reason you're going to need it is that we're going to use Google Drive, specifically a feature of Google Drive, or a program called Google Docs, in order for you to take notes and to do classwork. So all of your classwork, which will be once a week, will involve you working in this one document we're going to create called classwork. But in order to do that, you have to have your Gmail account set up. So let's go ahead and have you do that. If you don't already, just now you can pause the video, go do that so that you can do the next steps, because if you don't have this done and if you're not logged in, these next steps won't work. Now, I already have my Gmail for a student account in another tab here. And by the way, working in tabs is a really great way to help you do multiple things and move around fairly quickly in the web. So if you don't, I'm guessing most of you do, but if you don't, definitely check out how to load new tabs, and I'm just hovering over to show you that here. So I'm going to move over to my Gmail account for my student, and I'm going to show you the setup you need for this first folder that we're going to use in our course. So I'm going to click here. Now I'm already logged in, obviously, to Gmail. Not obviously, but I am. And from here, in order for me to get to Google Drive, I have to be logged into my Google account. And the way I get a Google account is I get a Gmail account. Okay, so Gmail becomes the keys to the kingdom for anything that you want in relationships to Google services. Okay, so I'm going to show you the 2 ways you can get to Google Drive. First, once you're in here, you can come over to all these dots in a square here, and if you click on them, it even gives you a little tooltip that it's the Google Apps. And then in here you'll see everything that they offer. Well, not everything, actually a subset. And then in here you should be able to find Google Drive. So I could click on that. That's one way. The other way I like to do it, and I'm going to show you this as well, is I actually just like to open another tab and type drive.google.com. Now, in my case, my browser has been here before, many times. And what it does is it automatically starts saying, hey, is this where you want to go? And in this case, I could just click the drive.google.com, and it brings me to the drive, my drive, from my student account that I have logged in. Now, I'm just going to click and drag this over so I have them right next to each other, which is, totally a nice way to do it. Interesting. Actually, I'm noticing something. I'm actually noticing this is logging into my own one, so I'm going to switch over. And what this is, and this is good to know too, is if you're working with people on the same computer and you both have Gmail accounts, you can actually change to the different accounts if you want. I personally have multiple accounts that use my computer for varying reasons. By the way, you might want to think about security with that, but I won't digress too far. So, and the reason I knew that is I looked up here and I noticed my regular picture, and I'm like, no, that's not my student account. That's how I knew. So the reason we're here, so I've shown you the 2 ways to get in. The reason we're here is to set up your shared, back here, your shared with Rio. So this is a directory you're going to set up, and I'm going to show you how to share it with me, and you'll use my Gmail account to do that. And that way I can get into your folder and they're in your file, and you'll need to give me what's called edit ability, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. I talk about that here. so that if for some reason I need to do something in your file, I can do that. Okay, so back here. So the first thing I recommend doing is actually setting up a base folder for our class. And I like to name things the class name, the semester, and the year that you're taking it. Now I can't enforce this step, but I recommend it. So now that we're in my drive, or your drive, okay, and this is your base, what we call your root directory for your drive, you can come over here and you can click New and click Folder. So under Folder, and I do recommend you use this naming convention, capital S, oh, sorry, my bad, CIT15, and this, for this particular semester, it's FA18, okay, so Fall 18 semester. So first we create that folder. Now you're going to end up creating other subdirectories later in this account, and I'll actually cover those in the next assignment that you have, or at least the next one you need to do. But that now has created that folder. Now if I click into that folder, and I've just double clicked into it, now I'm in this, and you can see there's actually nothing here, and it's showing me you can create new docs, and we'll do that in a second. But before we do anything else, what we need to do is share. You need to share this directory with me, okay? And the thing is, I've switched over the last couple of years to sharing, from sharing individual files, which is something you can do, to sharing folders. And the reason is it's just much easier, that you only have to set up this folder share option once, and then it applies to everything that you place in the folder. Now we're gonna do this again for another folder later, but for now this should work fine. Okay, and again, we're going to set the sharing options on the folder level and not on the file level. So get this right, because the other thing is about this is that you're going to use it the entire semester, this particular folder setup. Okay, so now from here I'm going to set up another folder, and this is where I'm going to set up the shared with Rio Waller. And I do recommend you follow this naming convention for this one. I can't enforce this one because I don't necessarily, well, I do have edit to this, but I'm just saying that's the recommendation. But on this one, I do ask you to set up this folder like I'm asking. So I'm going to hit another folder, and I'm going to get new and do new folder. I'm going to do shared with Rio Waller, and I ask you to capitalize that in this way as well. And what this does is it just makes it easier and quicker for you and I to understand that this folder is only between you and I. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. So now what we have is under, and it's working on it right now, it's taking it just a second. So now under this base folder for CIT that semester, and you may be watching this in a future semester, so don't worry about you happen to be spring 19 or something, or even beyond. So now I've created another folder. Okay, so now in here we're going to end up creating a doc in a minute, but I want you to share this with me. And I'm going to show you the two ways you can share. You can either, having selected the folder, come over here and hit shared, share with Rio Waller, or you can right click and hit share. Okay, so let's just do it this way. Let's click here, come over to the plus person, and in here it's going to ask you, enter the person that you're going to want to share this with. And that's why in here I've provided my Gmail account, and you can just copy and paste this if you want into, now I'm going to come back and I'm just moving between tabs, and I'm going to paste that in there. And I say here is my shared with Rio Waller directory. Okay, now one more step and we're almost done with this, at least the setup. So come over here and verify that I can organize, add, and edit, and make sure it's not view only. Make sure it is, and it seems to be default, but I'm not sure on your system it will be. So just verify that it is and you'll be good to go. So then once you hit send here, I actually will get an email in my Gmail account saying that you've shared it with me. And the other thing is, you can notice that this little folder now has a person on it, which indicates you've shared it. Okay, And that's the important. So just to verify that we did it right, what we can do here is right click, and we're going to just go into share again. It's just another way to get into share. And so this time you can see shared with Rio Waller, and that verifies that you set it up correctly. Okay, so now let's click into shared with Rio. And now you can see we're a director within that base directory. We now have a new directory, and now we're actually going to create a new file. Okay, so let's do this. Let's create. Now we're not going to create a new folder. Now we're actually going to create a new file. Clicked on Google Docs. So Google has some wonderful applications in here: Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, a lot more Google product. So Google Docs is basically like the online version of Microsoft Word, which also, by the way, these days Microsoft Word has an online version. So you can actually learn Microsoft Word in this course. So in a sense, you're going to learn two word processors: Google Docs and Microsoft Word. So, but in here, I'm just going to click here. And then it's giving you the heads up, which is good. You're creating in a shared folder. This item will have the same sharing permissions as a selected folder, and that's exactly what you want and what I was talking about earlier. So let's go ahead and create and share. So now it's going to come into an empty document. It'll call it Untitled. I'm going to have you name it, but this is actually created the document. And I actually want to show you that it did if you click back over to the folder, because in my case it actually created in a new window. If I just refresh this, it should, I believe, show up here. Maybe it doesn't yet. Okay, well, let's go name it. So now, and actually I thought it did save it, so that's interesting. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type classwork. Okay? So this is what I was referring to with you creating the classwork doc. And so now we've created this classwork doc, and we'll just go ahead and do week 1. And what I like you to use is a heading for each week that we do. So each week needs its own heading. So each week should have a heading 1. That's the highest level of organization. So a heading 1. And then within here you might do like a about this class. This is going to be the next video, so you don't have to do this. Well, it doesn't hurt, but you could do this. You'd do a heading 2. So that's like so heading 1 is the major heading, heading 2 is the minor heading, and then you can go on from there. Okay, so the other thing about Google Drive is it saves automatically. Okay, so that's a nice thing, really nice thing about most document word processors these days, is it automatically saves for you. Okay, all right, so let's go back here, because now, look, it did show up. So it's interesting, I think Google Drive has changed since I did this last, because it used to show up the untitled document, but I think it doesn't do that until you actually save, or I just wasn't waiting enough time for it to show up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the document here, and I'm just going to reopen it again to show you here how you get back into that document. Okay, so here's the thing and we're actually almost done with this first video. You haven't had to take notes on this first video. We've just done some setup. But what I want to show you is that when you do your notes, I want you to do the most current on top. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put in week 2, even though we're not at week 2 yet, but I'm just showing you the idea that the most current notes goes on the top. Okay, and the reason is because when I come in here and look at it, I don't want to have to scroll through the whole thing. It just makes it much easier for me to look at your document by adding those on there. Okay. Later I'm going to show you, okay, we're through this video, and now you're going to have a couple, I don't know, at least one other one as of right now, because I'm recording them, you'll need to watch and take notes on. But in the end, I'll show you how to submit this file. But one last thing I'm going to show you, and I've shown students in previous semesters, so I think it's fun to show you this as well. When you want to share this document with me, all you're going to do is give me this URL. And this URL is, as you can see, pretty darn long. As a matter of fact, you don't have to do this, but let me just show you what this looks like. Okay, I'm in normal text here. I've copied the URL, Control C. I've come down to here, and I've pasted. So this is the URL for this document. Okay, So one thing I like to show students, and I've done it various ways, is I've done what's called a URL shortener. And there's various URL shorteners, as you can see just by when I do this. Twitter has one, Bitly has one, Google has one, but I'm actually going to switch this year to Bitly because it's become kind of the standard bearer for the web. And so I wonder if I have to set up an account. Oh, I actually don't. That's nice. So let's actually do this. Here's what I want to show you. Is I'm going to copy that, paste that URL in there. Let's see if it makes me set up an account. Get started for free. Oh yeah, look at that. So it actually does make me create an account. So you could do that if you wanted. I don't like to set up another account, so I guess I wasn't going to use Google, but I am going to since it's easier. So I'm going to use the Google URL shortener, and I'm just showing you that there's multiples out here. This one is nice because I'm already logged in. Oh, look at this. This is a new message. We'll be turning down support in April for only existing users. Oh wow, March. That's maybe why I had issues last year. Interesting. Okay, so you get to see a little behind the scenes. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back into my Bitly. Okay, I'm going to get started for free. I'm going to use my Google account. Now you could set up one, and this is, by the way, very common on the web, so I don't mind showing it in this video. It's a very common thing on the web that you can use your other accounts if you want to. There is a bit of a hesitation, like I would only do this with accounts with websites and entities I really trust. Bitly's been around for so long, I really do trust them, so I could use my Facebook or my Twitter, but I'll go ahead and use my Google account here, and I'll even use my student one so that that's kind of a nice welcome, create, no, already, oh wow. Now see, this is kind of a bummer. They're actually making me create another account. Hey there, other, look, it's asking me why I'm doing it. I'm going to do other. I'm going to do education. Oh, you guys want, see, this actually is starting to make me want to stop using these guys because I don't want to have to go through all this. Just let's see if I can just get started. Okay, good. I can just get started. Again, this is optional. This is not required, but I'm just going to show you this because I think it's good to know. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to paste that long URL, right? This is, I got it. Okay, and so this then becomes, oh wow, isn't that interesting? When you copy it, oh yeah, you can copy it up here. Okay, good. I could title it, I can copy it here. The whole reason for me showing you this is that the nice thing about having that link then is from here on out, and you'll hear me talk about this at the end of the videos for week 1, is instead of having to copy and paste this long URL and it's kind of just unwieldy, you can use a shortened URL. Again, this is only for your FYI edification process, but what you'll need to do now is we've done all the steps for step 1. Now you're going to work into video 2, and I'll actually have you take some notes on what I'll cover in these next videos. All right, talk to you soon. Move on to the next one.